The Wolfe Eye Clinic advertises itself as Iowa's most trusted LASIK eye surgeons. And whenever I see that, I'm reminded of the old saying, if you have to tell somebody you're beautiful, you're not. I'm Joe Tai. As a former top executive for several large teaching hospitals and for the past 17 years as CEO of Values Coach, which provides consulting and training on values for hospitals all across North America, I have become an expert in healthcare quality and medical ethics and what it takes to be trustworthy. I also am a victim of LASIK eye surgery at the Wolfe Eye Clinic almost 5 years ago. I can tell you from my experience that you should not trust the Wolfe Eye Clinic. If you have eye surgery there, it's probably going to go okay, but don't take their word for it. Do your homework the way I wish I had done mine, because if I had done my homework, I never would have set foot in their door. The Wolfe Eye Clinic, in my case, failed the three most important tests of being trustworthy: character, competence, and caring. And I'd like to tell you a little bit about each in hopes that it will help you make a smart decision when it comes to your eyes or the eyes of a loved one. They failed the test of character. When I came in for my evaluation, the optometrist sat in the room with my wife and me, and with a straight face looked us both in the eyes and said, "Joe, you're a perfect candidate for this surgery." That was a lie, and he knew it was a lie. He had seen my medical record, although at that time I had not, and in my medical record it said I had a condition called blepharitis, which is a significant contraindication to LASIK eye surgery. When I got my record later and I read what the surgeon had written, I was shocked. He said, "Patient has blepharitis." I have discussed it with him. That also was a lie. That surgeon had never said that to me. If he had said, "Joe, you have blepharitis," I would have done the same thing you would have done. I would have gone to Google, and here's what I would have found. On page 1 of Google, I would have found one website, medical advice: blepharitis is a contraindication for refractive surgery. Unless it is fully under control, refractive surgery is not wise. That refractive surgery, that's LASIK. Here's another website. Blepharitis is a contraindication for most cornea-based refractive surgery techniques, including conventional or wavefront LASIK, unless the blepharitis is very mild and or is fully under control. Mine was not only very mild or under control, I have since had multiple optometrists and ophthalmologists tell me I have the worst blepharitis they've ever seen. I had one optometrist say a first-year optometry student could have looked at your eyes and said, "You should not be a candidate for LASIK," and the problems that I have suffered since were entirely predictable. When I was talking to the CEO, at one point, I got a hold of the CEO by phone, and I was asking him, I told him about all the problems I had. I'd written to him, which he never responded to. And I said, "You guys are being sued by someone else who had the same experience of dishonest diagnosis, botched procedure, negligent follow-up by the same team within several weeks of mine. Why aren't you looking into it?" And he said, "We're not being sued. I don't know anything about a lawsuit." I had talked to the lawyer who had filed the suit. I had a copy of the lawsuit in my hand. It's on my website. You should read it before you let the Wolfe Eye Clinic do LASIK on you. Now, I suspect that what he told me was technically accurate. He didn't know about a lawsuit because I imagine they had settled it out of court and it was no longer a lawsuit. But in the bigger picture, looking at character, that was at best a disingenuous response, wasn't it? If he had had the courage of character, he would have said, "Come in and let's talk about this. And I want to hear your side of the story." That never happened. And you know, they really, over more than anything, what is clear from my experience with the Wolfe Eye Clinic, they simply lacked the courage of character. They didn't have the courage to figure out what went wrong in my case. They wanted to sweep me under the rug like they did the woman who filed the lawsuit against them, and who knows how many others. And they did not have the courage to bring in a patient they had harmed through their own incompetence and negligence and have an honest dialogue with me. And that gets me to the second element of trustworthiness, which is competence. I ended up with severe double vision as a result of LASIK at the Wolfe Eye Clinic. Now, I learned from the university strabismus clinic later, that was because I had a pre-existing condition that could and should have been tested for, and had it been tested for, either they would have done a different procedure or they would have said, Joe, you're not a candidate, but they did not do that test. The optometrist, the one who told me I was a perfect candidate, after I was getting such bad double vision, I was a dangerous driver. At one point, I'm in his office. He holds up these two big fat pieces of plastic in front of my face and says, I wonder if prism lenses would help. And you know, I had visions of walking around with these space-like goggles. What's clear to me now is he was absolutely serious. He did wonder. He didn't know. He didn't have a clue. My last appointment at the Wolfe Eye Clinic, before the surgeon said, I'm sorry, and handed me a piece of paper, and walked out of the room, the piece of paper had a prescription for somebody else's eyeglasses. I had them made at a cost of $500, and they made my vision even worse than it already was. I ended up with severe dry eye problems with chronic eye pain. And the surgeon told me, he said, all eye drops are basically the same. It doesn't matter which ones you use, and you can use them as often as you want to. I found out at the University Cornea Clinic several years later, they asked me to bring in all the eye drops I'd been using. I brought in this great big Ziploc bag full of all the different drops. The doctor there almost had a heart attack. He said, my goodness, you're using all of this? He looked at my eyes carefully and he said, you have been gradually poisoning your eyes with the preservatives in all of these eye drops, and you have a serious case of eye drop preservative toxicity. I haven't used preservative eye drops in over a year, but in all likelihood, the damage that I did to my eyes is permanent and irreparable. At one point, after I had such bad results from the first surgery, they said, we want to do a touch-up. Now, I've learned a touch-up is not a touch-up. It is a second major insult to your eyes. And I told them, in writing, I said, I'm concerned that these problems might be made worse by a second procedure. They said, oh, no, don't worry about it. In fact, many people who have a touch-up end up with even better than 20/20 vision. But, of course, because all of the problems I suffered were because of pre-existing conditions, the double vision, the dry eyes, quite predictably, the second surgery that I let them do made everything even worse. And their incompetence just shone through in my entire experience with the Wolfe Eye Clinic. And you know what? They simply didn't care. And that's the third element of being trustworthy. I told them, the double vision that this surgery created is so bad, I had to close one eye to pass the driver's test to get my license. It is so bad I cannot read street signs. It is so bad when another car is coming from the other direction, I see two of them, and in traffic, I can't tell how many cars there are. I'm a dangerous driver. They ignored me. I told them that the eye pain I was experiencing was so severe that I was concerned I was going to become addicted to sleep medication and pain medication because I had to take a cocktail of the two of them to get to sleep. Still, the situation, they ignored me. I sent them a 6-page letter with recommendations for how to improve their quality so that if you go in and have surgery there, you won't have the same kind of experience I had. They ignored that too. This is advice my company gets paid to give other clients. They completely ignored it, and they ignored it because clear through the entire correspondence I had with them, it's on my website, you ought to read it, 34 pages, 32 pages from me to them, all of which they ignored, and I copied every doctor in the clinic. They have no excuse for saying, oh, I didn't know about it. And the only response I got from them was one email from the surgeon saying, keep using eye drops, everything will be okay, and a form letter from the CEO saying, we'll take your concerns under consideration. If you have LASIK eye surgery at the Wolfe Eye Clinic, you'll probably be okay. Most people are, otherwise they'd have been sued out of existence. But they have nowhere near the near-perfect track record they claim to have. And let me paraphrase something the Washington Post said in an article a while back. They said, you should not trust your LASIK eye surgeon because that person has a financial conflict of interest. They don't get paid for sending you away. They get paid for operating on your eyes. And I would say that goes double for the Wolfe Eye Clinic. Do not trust them just because they say they're the most trusted eye doctors in Iowa. Do your own homework. Get a second opinion. Record every conversation you have with them when you go in. Ask them, do I have blepharitis? Do I have latent double vision? Have you tested for it? Don't trust them to do your homework for you, because you could end up like me, looking back and saying, trusting the Wolfe Eye Clinic with my precious eyes is the biggest mistake I've ever made in my entire life. Just don't do it.